Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs and today I have a video for you on the ScrapbookPal channel. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to use some distress watercolor paper and I'm going to spritz it down with a little bit of water because I'm going to start my background. And with the background I'm kind of just going to lay a whole bunch of color down and hope that it goes well. Sprays can be a little bit intimidating, so I kind of am more playing than anything. And I have a few different colors here. I have Salvaged Patina, Hickory Smoke, and Old Paper in Distress Oxide. And I did also bring in brushed corduroy in a distress spray stain. So I just kind of sprayed my backgrounds. This is kind of my base color. We're going to build from here. We're going to do a lot of layers because I think that that's kind of where these sprays shine, and that kind of gives you that almost watercolor effect. So at this point my backgrounds are dry from the first layer and I'm just going to continue adding color pretty much anywhere I think it's going to look good. There's no real rhyme or reason, to be honest with you. I just kind of picked my colors and then just kept laying some color down until I was happy. There's no real plan here. I just kind of really wanted to play with my sprays and create something kind of neat in a color palette that I don't generally lean towards. If you've followed any of my creations, I generally do a lot of pinks, purples, a lot of rainbow colors. That's kind of where I go. Browns and like old paper and stuff are things that I don't generally reach for. So this was a really good challenge for me to kind of try to create something I thought would fit like a Father's Day card, which is kind of where we're going with this. And I am creating two because I have my dad and then my father-in-law. And I struggle a little bit to come up with a masculine-esque card, so I kind of figured when I had a pretty good idea that I would make two and be really good for this year and then have to come up with new ideas for next year. So I am still just building up my background, lots and lots of layers here, and I do dry it in between each layer. I'm not going to show you that because I kind of figure you probably get the idea, but I am just drying it in between each layer. And here you can see that I'm barely squeezing the nozzle because I really want just some drips and drops from the sprayer nozzle. So I'm going to bring in some texture paste, and this is a stencil by Catherine Pooler. It's the Faceted Slimline stencil. I'm not using it on a Slimline card here because I think that you can use Slimline products for anything. I think they work beautifully. I just kind of am picking and choosing a few areas, and I brought in some texture paste, and this is the opaque paste. So it's really neat that it picks up the color underneath it because of course it's like picking up the water-based inks that are underneath the color, and it's not going on perfectly, and I don't need it to. I'm just using my little Nuvo Spatula there and just kind of picking 3 areas because I like to work in odds, and I picked 3 areas on the card face, and I'm just putting a little bit of texture paste through the stencil and letting it kind of sop up the color underneath it. Excuse me. Although the base of this is dry at this point, it's really neat that the texture paste pulls up some of the color from the bottom color, like the underneath color. I just think that's so neat. And you can see here that the card is quite patina, salvaged patina heavy. I got a little heavy-handed with that color because I'm pretty excited about it, so I was a bit heavy with it. But you can also see that there are some browns. You can see some old paper. The texture paste really seems to pick up the old paper well, which is really neat because it kind of gives you this green-brown look, which I think is really neat in this a bit of a distressed-looking card, which is very out of my comfort zone, but I think turned out really neat. So here I have the Tim Holtz Alphanumeric Stretched Upper Thin dies, and I have fathers spelt there, and I just use a piece of low-tack tape to stick them together. It's just because I figured it would be easier for die cutting for me at this point. And then I ran it through my die cutting machine, and here I'm kind of trying to decide what kind of layout I'm going for. And this is where I decide that I'm actually going to cut out fathers 3 times for each card out of the same white cardstock. I used scraps mostly. This one card is not, but for the most part, I used scraps to create this layered effect. But after I looked at my background, I really wanted some more texture. So in this, I just brought in brushed corduroy in Oxide ink and salvaged patina in Oxide ink. And I just picked a rubber stamp out of my stash that's been in my stash forever. You could use any textured stamp, like this one's script writing, which is really neat. But any stamp would work for this. And I'm using my hand instead of a block because I don't want perfect stamping. I'm still working on the background. This is just added texture for the background. And here I just pulled out another stamp out of my stash that I had a while, and I'm gonna just stamp these kind of cool circle pieces into the background as well. I am going to bring in black soot in a moment, and the reason I introduced black soot as a new color, because there is no black in this card at this point, is because later I am going to stamp out happy and day in black ink on white cardstock and trim it into labels. So I really wanted to have a little bit more black in the layout of the design, just because otherwise I would only have black on those two words, and I didn't feel like it would be as cohesive in my design. See, here it is right here. And again, it's just another little stamp for my stash that I've had forever. These are great for mixed media projects because they add a lot of texture in a really neat way. These are just little circle dies. But literally, guys, anything would work for this. You could use any stamp out of your stash or pick up some great stuff from the ScrapbookPal store. So yeah, I just stamped that kind of randomly on the background wherever I thought it would look good. And again, this is kind of playing. Like, this is something a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I really wanted to kind of just play around with something that was a bit different and a bit kind of fun. So this is what I came up with. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you want to leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of how these cards turned out, that would be awesome. And then yeah, here, so I'm going to splash on a little bit of white gouache. This is just to add some more texture. Again, I'm just building up the background, and I just splashed it on with a paintbrush in my stash. The really neat thing about this is that, again, because distress inks are water soluble, the paint will pull up some of the color from the background. So the splashes that are quite white at this point won't stay white. They will blend in a bit with the background, which I think looks so neat. And you'll see that when I hold up the card at the end. So I did bring in here, you can see that I've cut out my Holtz Alphanumeric stretch upper dies 3 times for each word. So father's 3 times, actually 6 times, because it's 3 times for each card. And I'm gluing them together with my favorite Nuvo Deluxe glue. The only reason I chose to use Nuvo Deluxe glue is because I like the wiggle room of a liquid glue. You could use a tape runner. You could have put like score tape on the back of this and stuck them together that way. I like the versatility of a liquid glue. That's just my preference, but there's no wrong way to do this. And the reason that I decided to cut it out 3 times is that I wanted it to have a bit more oomph. For a lack of a better word, I wanted it to have more body. I found because the cardstock's, it's not thin, but comparatively to the background that has texture and layers and a bunch going on, it didn't stand out enough for my liking. So this is kind of a way that I've created kind of like a chipboard look with stuff that you'd already have in your stash. Because it's paper. Like we all have paper, or we'd have a hard time being paper crafters. But it's just, it adds a bit of a chipboard look. Now you could of course achieve this with foam tape, you could achieve this with other mediums, but I chose to do it with what I had on hand, which is this cardstock. So, and I don't mind gluing things together. It can be a little tedious, but I don't mind it. So this is just kind of my answer to that. And I am going to do this for both fathers. I'm not going to show you both because I figure you get the idea there, but that's what I did there. And then I brought in my trimmer because I wanted a little bit of the white border to stand out. Again, this is only because I have the white words, like father's all in white. I didn't add any color to it. So I wanted my white card base to show a little bit past my colored panel, and a little bit. I think I cut off a 1/4 of an inch on each side, giving me 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You're going to see it right here. Like, it's a very thin border, but I think that in the end card it helps tie in the white lettering. I do try really hard, and of course my panel's dry at this point. I do try really hard to repeat things in 3s. So like I did with my stenciling and my texture paste, I did 3 little pieces of that stencil. I have 3 places that there's white cardstock showing, that kind of thing. I think that it's really appealing to the eye. And I am going to glue my panel down to my base before I put on fathers. Only because the watercolor cardstock has bowed a bit in the center, and I was struggling to line up my word on it because I couldn't get it flat. So this is just to add some stability to that card panel and get it to be flatter before I put on fathers. And I am going to bring in a ruler. You could absolutely eyeball this. You could absolutely do it on an angle, or have them be not lined up perfectly. This is just my OCD kicking in a little bit, and I just decided to do it straight. But this card would look beautiful with those words on a bit of an angle, or every letter kind of going up or down and not being even. There's so many ways you could have done this. And again, I'm going to bring in my Nuvo Deluxe glue, and I'm going to start from the center because there's 7 letters, so the H is the center letter. And I'm just going to go back and forth and do this one letter at a time pretty much. I felt that that was the easiest way to kind of get it centered and get it straight. So that's kind of what I was thinking there, but there's no wrong way to do this. And I do bring in an acrylic block to hold it down simply because the background has so much texture, sorry, it has so much texture on it that it makes it difficult to get the letters to stay. They kept trying to pop up in different areas, so every time I put down a letter or two, I'll just put the block on it and help that hold the glue until it dries flat, and then we can keep going. Only because I had issues with the bowing of the paper and then the letters not wanting to stick where there was texture paste or a lot of ink. Otherwise, I mean, this glue holds beautifully. It's my favorite liquid glue. I use it all the time. But it was not because of any issues with the glue. It's just that the background was so textured that it really didn't want to adhere well. It just kept popping up. So yeah, the acrylic block's a really easy way to do this. Anything would work. Anything that's got a little bit of heft to it could hold these letters down. And you're going to see here that I'm just kind of lining them up with the ruler. I think that I did almost every letter is sitting on about a 1/2 inch. That's kind of what I eyeballed it to, and that's just what I did there. I mean, you could literally do anything, and I think this project would look stunning. I think you could use a whole bunch of different colors as well, and it would still look beautiful. It's just that I really wanted to play with Salvaged Patina, so I've loved all the new Oxide colors that have come out. I just can't. I'm so excited by the color palette that Tim Holtz comes up with. It's just mind-boggling amazing. So yeah, so I'm going to adhere the last couple letters of Fathers on the second card, and then we're going to jump in to, I don't even remember what I did next. Oh yeah, I'm going to stick down Happy and Day, sorry. Yes, so I did stamp out Happy and Day, just from stamps in my stash, quite small, because I wanted the background to shine and Fathers to really stand out. So you can see here I just added Happy above the F, and then on Day, I just added it to the end of the S. Don't ask me why. I liked how it looked, so that's what I went with. There's no real right or wrong. You could absolutely grab something slightly bigger than the, excuse me, the ones that I pulled out, but this is just what I came up with, and I thought it looked really cute, so I left it. I'm sure that my dad will appreciate it. Well, he'll appreciate it as much as my dad appreciates cards. He's so proud of me and he loves what I create, but I don't think he knows what to do with them, so then he's just kind of unsure. But he'll love the cards, so it's good. And then my husband's dad, he just loves the stuff that I make, so it's pretty amazing. So yeah, that is the cards I have for you guys this week. I hope that you enjoy them. I hope that you'll leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing. There are some amazing creators on this channel, and you should really check out what they've got going on. It's just stunning, the projects they come up with. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you will consider subscribing and leave us a like and a comment. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.